Stablecoins are stealing the spotlight right now, and for good reason. If you've been keeping up with the channel these past few weeks, you already know they're the backbone of so many conversations in the crypto world. Why? Because they're absolutely essential. Think about it. If we're envisioning trillions of dollars moving on chain, stablecoins are the bridge that makes it possible. If we're talking about the mass adoption of crypto, stablecoins are the foundation that sets the stage. They're not just a buzzword, they're a game changer, enabling the very future of digital finance. So buckle up, stablecoins aren't just part of the crypto discussion, they are the discussion. Let's dive in and explore why they're such a big deal. Stablecoins are set to accelerate everything we've been discussing around XRP and other utility-based projects. And right now, we're seeing some major moves in the space. For example, the Bank of America CEO recently confirmed that the bank is working on its own crypto stablecoin. This isn't exactly new news. We've been hearing rumblings about it for a while now. Back in January, the CEO said they're ready to fully embrace crypto payments as long as regulators give the green light. Then in March, they mentioned they were actively exploring the launch of a stablecoin as soon as possible. Again, depending on regulatory approval. This is still a hot topic, and honestly, it's pretty wild when you think about it. Stablecoins today, get this, are nearing $3 trillion monthly transfer volume. I just mentioned this in a recent video, but seriously, at what point do we admit that this is the new money? This is the digital fiat revolution we've been talking about for years. Remember when everyone was so worried about CBDCs? Well, here we are. Stablecoins are basically the CBDCs. They're programmable digital fiat currency on the blockchain, and it's already happening. It's crazy how fast this is all happening. Over the past year, stablecoins have absolutely exploded. It's reached a point where you can't really ignore them anymore. Honestly, I think 2022 was the turning point. It became pretty clear that stablecoins were the future. Why? Well, because we hit something like $11 trillion in yearly transfer volume back then, which was already competing with giants like Visa and MasterCard. And now, stablecoins have completely surpassed them. They're everywhere, and the race to dominate the stablecoin space is on. Everyone's jumping in. Banks, companies, even the US is looking into launching its own stablecoin. We're seeing more and more stablecoin launches from major players lately. For example, SocGen just launched a US dollar stablecoin on Ethereum and Solana. If that name sounds familiar, it's probably because this is the same bank planning to launch its ERV stablecoin on the XRP ledger this year. There haven't been any major updates on that yet, but I'm keeping an eye on it since SG Forge is working with Ripple Custody. Plus, it's a Euro stablecoin, and those are a big deal. We already know there's another Euro stablecoin set to launch on the XRP ledger. I'm thinking Europe might be the one to watch. I'm still looking into it, but any stablecoin in that region is a big deal because of the MiCA compliance they have to meet. That said, the US dollar stablecoin launching on Ethereum and Solana is huge too. We're seeing more and more moves like this, and it's definitely something to keep an eye on. USD stablecoins are making big moves right now. Here's why. US is going all in on digital assets, including dollar-backed stablecoins. On top of that, there's the Clarity Act, which is a big deal. I mentioned it in a video recently, but to recap, the Clarity Act has already passed and now it's heading to the House floor. All right, so aside from the Clarity bill, our main focus right now is the Genius bill. And let me tell you, this one is a really big deal. Don't get me wrong, the Clarity Act was huge, but the Genius bill is the next big thing we need to keep an eye on. Why? Because it's going to open up the stable coin market in a major way. Brad Garlinghouse actually gave us a heads up about this at XRP Las Vegas, and he made it clear that a massive shift is coming. Big thanks to Digital Asset Investor for sharing this. Seriously, big changes are on the horizon. If you haven't checked it out yet, now's the time.
So, I mean, look, this is going to sound a little hyperbole, but it is an amazing time to be alive and see the shift of headwinds to tailwinds. And I think people still underestimate how profound that will be when the largest economy in the world and the most important regulatory bodies in the world go from being hostile, openly and actively hostile and counterproductive, to constructive, to how do we partner with this industry. It's a massive sea change. I think people underestimate how consequential that will be over 2025, 2026 and beyond. Now, one of the things in the Hidden Road acquisition particularly, I think Ripple tries to be a little bit, we're kind of at the infrastructure layer. We try to think about where the world is going and make bets that are going to play out over years. I've always talked about, and this community particularly has been extremely patient as we have fought some frustrating fights. But the Hidden Road acquisition is really about continuing to build bridges between traditional finance and decentralized finance. And I think if you believe that it's just going to be, okay, the DeFi world is just going to grow and replace it, I don't believe that. We have to bridge that gap. And Ripple has been working around our payments business and bridging that gap for almost a decade. And for me, Hidden Road represents, if we want the largest market makers, the largest hedge funds in the world to come into this ecosystem, we need the infrastructure to enable that. Hidden Road is one of the fastest growing non-bank prime brokers. Most of the players in the prime broker space are the traditional commercial banks. And for those guys have been hostile towards crypto because of the regulatory dynamic. That's changing a little bit, but Hidden Road, I think, is a subtle, almost flex to their hundreds of clients, names you've heard of, the largest financial players in the world that are using Hidden Road. They cleared $3 trillion last year. They're growing very quickly, and frankly, with Ripple's balance sheet, we're only going to see that accelerate. That's great for the XRP ecosystem. That's great for RLUSD. And I will keep reminding people, Ripple is completely committed to what we can do to make XRP the most trusted, the most useful, and the most liquid digital asset on the planet. We will always be committed to that.
Right now, we're seeing some of the biggest moves in the US market, and the changes over the past 12 months have been huge. It's honestly kind of wild to watch, but it just goes to show how quickly things can shift, especially in crypto. And it's not just about price action. When we talk about crypto, it's not just, oh yeah, prices could skyrocket in a few months or even a few days. It's so much bigger than that. The way tech evolves, it happens fast, lightning fast. I've always said this because if you really think about it, just look at what's happening outside the US. Technology never stops. It never sleeps. If this technology is truly disruptive, super efficient, and lets us do things we couldn't do before, guess what? It's probably going to get adopted whether the US likes it or not. Whenever we see other countries making big moves in these tech races, we take it seriously. That's exactly why the US is starting to take action now. This stuff is getting way too big to ignore. Here, speaking of big changes, let's talk about something Senator John Thune said yesterday. On the 11th, he said, cryptocurrency is here to stay and it's time we bring it into the mainstream. Pretty bold, right? Let's dive into that.
President, a significant number of Americans are engaging with cryptocurrency. That includes Americans who use stable coins. And then there are the individuals and businesses around the world that access the American dollar through the use of dollar-backed stable coins. Mr. President, stable coins are a relatively recent financial innovation, but they've quickly caught on. They offer easy payments with the speed and security of the blockchain and the stability and usability of the dollar bill. There are roughly $250 billion of them now in circulation. Traditional financial institutions are said to be considering getting into the stablecoin business. And companies like Uber and Airbnb are reportedly exploring integrating them into their businesses. Mr. President, it's clear that cryptocurrency is here to stay, and it's time that we bring it into the mainstream. Passing the Genius Act is a good first step. The Genius Act would provide a clear regulatory framework for stablecoins. It would ensure Americans can trust who they're doing business with when they purchase stablecoins, allowing the American people to exercise financial freedom with confidence. The Genius Act would also protect against threats to our national security and from criminal activity. It would require stablecoin issuers to uphold the same standards as other financial institutions to monitor and report suspicious activity, comply with U.S. sanctions, and block illicit transactions.
Yeah, and here's the thing. It's not just about getting cryptocurrency to go mainstream. It's about how the US is actually going to make that happen by integrating it into the system. That's the real key to making it mainstream. Right now, US banks are gearing up for stablecoin initiatives, and regulators have already given big banks the green light to move forward. As retail investors, we need to pay attention to how these public networks connect. Why? Because that's where the opportunity is. If we invest in the networks that these stablecoins will run on, we're positioning ourselves for success. The real move is looking at the connections between big banks and specific networks and seeing where things are headed. That's where the money's going to flow. Big banks launching stablecoins is a huge step toward mainstream adoption of cryptocurrency. It's a sign that crypto is becoming more integrated into everyday life. On top of that, there's big news from the US Senate. It just advanced the Genius Act, a stablecoin bill. This happened on the 11th with an update from Senator Tim Scott. As the chairman of the banking GOP, he's promised to prioritize digital assets, and the Genius Act shows he's following through. Exciting times ahead. Check it out.
When I became chairman of the Senate Banking Committee, I promised to prioritize innovation, accountability, and smart regulation in the evolving digital economy. And we have the opportunity to deliver on that promise. The Genius Act will be the most significant digital assets legislation ever to pass the U.S. Senate. It's the product of months of bipartisan work. And I also want to thank the bill's sponsor, Bill Hagerty, who went out of his way to make this legislation a bipartisan success by partnering with Senator Alsobrooks, working with Senator Gillibrand, along with our colleagues on this side of the aisle, Senator Lummis and myself. I am incredibly proud to see the hard work of Senator Hagerty pay off, not for him, but for the American people. That's what makes this process such a special one. It's what makes the United States Senate the most deliberative body in the world today. This is a victory for working families, small businesses, and everyday Americans who deserve faster, cheaper, and safer access to financial services. It's a win for innovation because this framework will give entrepreneurs the confidence to build here in the United States of America and not abroad. And it's a win for national security because the Genius Act brings stablecoin issuers under strict anti-money laundering standards, cracking down on bad actors at home and abroad.
Right now, this is really the last big thing we need to focus on for stablecoin initiatives. Once this gets approved, everything else is ready to go. The regulators have already given the big banks the green light, and the banks have been gearing up for stablecoin initiatives for a while now. The Genius Act is a big deal. It's set to prioritize digital asset adoption and stablecoin initiatives, which could really open up the digital asset market in the US. This feels like a turning point, a huge step to help digital assets and currencies reach their full potential here. I'm genuinely excited about this, and I think it's something everyone should keep an eye on. If you're interested in digital currencies or just curious about where this space is heading, now's the time to pay attention. We're at the start of a digital currency revolution, and fiat currency is moving on-chain faster than anyone expected. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss any future content. Thanks for watching. See you next time.